Hey everybody, I'm going to try to provide audio over a video I shot of me showing comics. The original audio kind of messed up, so maybe I can kind of salvage the footage that I shot. So basically, this is me explaining how I went to the comic book store. They had a big sale, and I bought some interesting things. And I jump into it. This is Death Blow #2 with art by Jim Lee. Of course, pretty popular image series from back in the 90s. The backup story is Cybernary, which was written by Steve Gerber, and the interior art was by a guy named Manobot. And here I'm showing you how I just can't make heads or tails out of any of this art right here. Okay, and let's see here. I'm just talking about how good the Jim Lee art is in comparison to that. And the next comic is Cyberforce #2. This was a crossover, I believe, with Wildcats #5 or #6, where they kind of go into the origins of um, Warblade and Ripclaw. Just, real 90s fun there. Okay, this is me showing you. Oh, Carlston Bromstar did a video a little while ago talking about Elric of Melbourne and all the comics adaptations. It was a really, really cool video. It was just happened to be on my mind when I bought when I was at the comic book store. So I picked up Siegfried. The reason being, of course, the art in both things was by P.Craig Russell. P.Craig Russell was, he's just a marvelous fantasy artist. He also did the art for the Kill Raven series over at Marvel in the mid 70s, but just some really, really nice stuff there. And I'm showing you Nathaniel Dust. This was a very interesting series that came out in the 80s from DC. It was written by Don McGregor, and the art was by Gene Colan. And just some really, really interesting art. It's basically a straight up hard boiled detective fiction. No tights, no fights. Well, there's fights, but no fantasy elements or anything like that. And the art is really interesting because the art is just Gene Colan's pencils. They didn't do any inking, and they put the colors on top of Gene Colan's pencils, and it just looks really interesting. It provides a real kind of mysterious, spooky, haunting quality to a lot of the art here. And I think here I'm going to show you some of the art really quickly. Yeah, there we go. There we go. It's just really expressionistic. I guess that's the word I want to use, but it's just very interesting and very experimental for the time. All right, the next comic is, I think it's Pixie. Yeah, Pixie Strikes Back, X-Men spinoff. I think it was written by, I think it was, shit, do I have it here? I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's Catherine Immelman did the story, and the art was by Sarah Pacelli. Catherine Immelman, of course, being Stuart Immelman's wife, and Stuart does the covers for these, which is really cool, really neat. Just a whimsical sort of little thing going on there. And the next comic, I think I show you some Atlas and some Charleston Comics. Yeah, Atlas Comics. Atlas was this comic book company that was around in the mid 70s that was run by Larry Lieber, who was Stan Lee's real life brother. And you can see how the covers kind of have this old school Marvel, mid 70s type feel to it. I hadn't read this comic yet, Morlock 2002. I'm assuming Morlock is the guy in blue there. Would have been interesting if they had gotten the artist to kind of show the character's face on the cover, but okay. And the next one I got there is Lomax NYPD plus Luke Malone Manhunter. And it looks like they're trying to capitalize on all the cop shows that were popular at the time. I don't know who did the art there. It looks very Rick Buckler-ish. It's kind of funny. Come and get it, Lomax. First I waste you, then the chick. And then the hero's like, wrong, your spree is over, punk. You're finished. And he jumps at him with his arms spread open. But it looks kind of fun. I think the next comics I show are what am I doing? I think I'm just trying to guess who did the art because I hadn't opened it up yet. But I think the next comics I show are like some Charleston comics. Let's see here. Yeah, these are some random Charleston comics I got. Space War. I got that just because on one hand it seemed super generic. On the other hand, there was just something about it that just seemed kind of fascinating. So I just grabbed that. Just kind of, I don't know, quirky-ish art. Next comic is Gunfighter. I just bought it for the cover. Kind of has a interesting idiosyncratic style. I don't know if it really comes across in the video there. Oh, and the next thing I got was a romance comic called First Kiss. Um, that one I actually did open up because I was trying to figure out who did the art there. It's from 1960, and the thing is, there are no credits as far as the art or the story is concerned. And but just looking at that cover, it looks very maybe Vince Colita-ish. Well, Vince Colita-ish. Vince Colita was this guy who did a lot of inking of Jack Kirby like back in the 60s. And that has a similar feel to it. I don't know. It could be Joey Schmoey for all I know, but that was my guess. Next is Marvel Preview. That is number 23. It says Bizarre Adventures number 2. This was a sequel to, well, Marvel Preview was basically this anthology comic, and every issue something was different. And this is Bizarre Adventures 2. Bizarre Adventures 1 was, several like reprint science fiction and fantasy stories, and Bizarre Adventures 2 was all new stories. So I guess it did pretty well. And then they ended up changing the name of the regular magazine to Bizarre Adventures. And this particular issue here has stories featuring random X-Men characters. You have a Phoenix story, Iceman story, of course a Nightcrawler story. Some of the art in the inside is I believe Dave Cockrum, John Buscema, George Perez did something in there. And let's see here. I think I'm just talking about the art. Oh no, I'm showing you how like on the last page it says next issue, and next issue is Martyr the She-Wolf, written by Chris Claremont and drawn by John Bolton. And what's interesting about that is I can't remember what the next issue of Bizarre Adventures was, but it wasn't that story. They ended up using that story, chopping it up in a couple parts and using it in an anthology magazine they were putting out at the time called Epic Illustrated, which was basically Marvel Comics answer to Heavy Metal magazine, the heavy metal, fantasy science fiction movie, or magazine, I should say. And I just thought that was interesting that they had gone to the trouble of saying, next issue, look out for it, and then didn't use it, ended up using the story someplace else. Here, I think I'm going to mention some newer comics that I bought. Yeah, that's X-Men #1, art by Stuart Immonen. Really great art. I don't know how I feel about the story. Deadpool #1. I just picked that up because so many people were talking about how good it was and how fun it was, and so I gave it a shot, and I'm glad I did pick it up. And the next one is Freelancers #1. It's only $1, and I picked it up because Tom Devine from A Comic Book Look was talking about how good it was, so I thought I'd give that one a shot. And that's basically it. Sorry the sound turned out really crappy, but thanks for listening. Leave whatever comments you want. Everybody